Let's build an effective sales team. Let's do it proper, because if you don't do it right this time, you're going to keep doing this over and over and over again, and you're never going to gain any traction, and you're never going to get to what your potential is. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a deep dive on the onboarding process for new salespeople hires. So the way I'm going to break this up, we're going to talk about the first week, the first 5 days when that new hire joins you. What needs to happen with that person, and what are the things that you need to have in place so they have a wonderful onboarding experience, and also you get a chance to know them more than what you did in the interview. Because remember, sometimes people interview really well, but you don't really get to know them until they start work with you. Wouldn't it be nice to know what makes that person tick as soon as possible, so you know exactly how you need to approach them with regards to their training and the handling of that particular individual in your dealership environment. So let's start with day one. What does day one look like? When they arrive, in my mind, everybody in the store who is going to be working with that individual, all the sales department and the reception staff, should be aware that we've got a new hire starting today. And they should know their name, and ideally, if you've got a picture of them, that picture should also go out to the staff in an email a day or two before that person arrives. The idea behind this is, in your onboarding email, you're gonna say, hey, when you come in for your shift on such and such a date at 9 a.m., please come to the main reception and ask for me. Let's say our candidate's name is Nick. So Nick comes in, he goes to reception, and our receptionist says, oh, Nick, welcome aboard. We're very happy to have you. And he's like, wow, isn't that one great way to start? So you start your work on the onboarding process well ahead of the time that person actually shows up. So that's one little technique. Then once the receptionist has met them, you are there ready and waiting, because you know Nick is supposed to arrive at 9 a.m. on that day. So you are there ready to come out and greet him. In fact, you might even be waiting for him at the reception desk, because you know he's arrived and you've already blocked off time in your calendar to meet and greet him and start your onboarding process. So now that you've met him, obviously you get the pleasantries out of the way. You know, hey, this is where you can put your bag, this is where you can put your lunch, here's the washroom, here's the coffee machine, whatever the case may be. Grab a coffee, both of you, and then let's start a dealership tour. Have a dealership tour in mind, and not something ad hoc. You want to talk about every specific thing in that department that makes it tick. Remember, a lot of these people may be brand new to the dealership environment. So this should not be just a quick, hey, 2-minute run around the store and see what's what. No, this should be, we're going to take a couple of minutes in each department, explain what the reason for that department being there is, who the main people are that Nick needs to know, and also, if possible, introduce them to those main people as you're walking around. You may have a delivery department, you may have a detail department, you've definitely got a service department, you've got a parts department. So all of the key people, it would be great for them to know that here's Nick, he's a new salesperson. A lot of times what happens, if we don't do a proper onboarding with the key individuals in the store, salespeople will go back there needing some help, needing some information, and those department staff are like, who are you again? When did you start with us? Oh yeah, I'm Nick, I've been here for 3 months, but they have no clue. So these are some things about how you give a warm welcome. This is not just about onboarding, it's also about hospitality. You want to make sure that you're welcoming these people into your place of work, into your home, your second home. So make sure that you have that environment of, hey, welcome to my home, let me show you around. Let me tell you a little bit about what happens here in this department. So take them around the various different departments of the store, explain to them the function, introduce them to those various different staff that we have. Then once you're done with the dealership tour, you might want to take a small break for 5-10 minutes. Just, gather yourself up. You can go respond to a couple of emails. Don't get too involved though. You want to come right back to Nick. So have a quick break and then come back in a comfortable environment. Maybe this is your office. Maybe it's going to be the office Nick is going to work out of. Maybe it's the boardroom. And you want to talk at this point about the dealership culture. What is it about the dealership that makes it tick? What is the unique thing about your store that is different than all of the others? And you want to talk about that in depth. You want to give examples and stories about how that works. So for a lot of us, customer service is paramount. Give an example of what things you do to make sure that your customer has an amazing experience at your dealership. What are some examples of that? Tell some stories to Nick about what that actually looks like. Now that you've had a chance to sit down with Nick and talk to him a little bit about dealership culture, you then want to talk about what does this week look like. So kind of lay out the plan for him that on the first day, we're going to set you up with all of the various systems that you need access to. And here's your usernames and passwords because we've already got them ready. So let's make sure that all your technology works. So maybe at this point, we go back down to his work area, make sure he's got access to everything that he needs to have access to. If there's any glitches there, then you can send out your request to make sure that he has access to all those systems. And then you also want to give him an idea of what is the most important thing that you want him to do on that first day. In my mind, it's about getting to know the product that he's selling. More than likely, there is some OEM training or there's some online training that needs to happen. Have him start on that so he gets an introduction. If there's a way to tailor that based on the particular model or trim that is the highest volume seller for you in your store, I would say concentrate on that first. So for example, if you've got a particular model line that accounts for 50% of your sales, work on that first. Master that first. So go through all of the courses that are related to that model first. Learn everything you can about that. Then at that point, once you've done all of those courses, that might take an hour, might take 5 hours, I have no idea. But whatever your time frame is with your courses, once that particular piece is mastered, then take a break from the computer. We don't want Nick stuck in an office for an entire week just working through those courses. We want it to be interactive, we want it to be engaging. So now that he's had a chance to do some online learning about a particular model, let's take him out on that model. Let's do a walk around with that. You pretend like you're the salesperson, let Nick pretend like he's the customer. So do a walk around with him and what are your expectations of what a proper walk around looks like. As you do that, he's starting to pick up clues of, okay, this is what we do in our walk around here at my new store. Then flip the roles. You be the customer and let Nick be the salesperson and see how he did. How much of the information that you just shared with him did he pick up? He's obviously not going to get 100% of it. However, he will pick up some items of it. And as you do this, you'll be able to just course correct a little bit and say, okay, that's great, but you might want to try it this way next time. Now that we've done a walk around presentation, the next step in that process would be a test drive. So again, we've done the online learning, we've done a presentation or walk around presentation. Now let's take Nick on a test drive. Do you have a prescribed test drive route? If you don't, why don't you? Maybe that's something you want to consider. It's always nice to have a pre-planned route with regards to your test drive. That way there's no guesswork. And who drives? Do you just send the keys with the customer and say, there you go, enjoy your drive, see you in 20 minutes? Or does the salesperson go with them? In my mind, the test drive is very, very important. Everything else we talk about when we're dealing with a car sale is logical. It's numbers based, it's interest rates, it's trade value. But once you actually get that customer in the seat, that's where the emotions kick in. That's where the idea of, hey, this could be my next new car. That's where this starts to process. So we want to make sure that our salesperson is in the test drive with the customer. The way I found to be best is to have a prescribed route and have the salesperson drive first with a designated switchover point where the customer takes over. The idea behind this is the salesperson drives this particular car. They're familiar with it. They know all the buttons, all the controls. They can show off the vehicle a little bit. And then it's the customer's turn. And then the customer can bring the vehicle back to the store. And that's where you go into the rest of the process, which is obviously the negotiation and going into finance and then finally delivery. So basically what you want to do as part of this whole process is let them learn online, show them the walk around, take them for a test drive, have them come back to the dealership, go through a mock negotiation with them. So you want them to see an entire sale from start to finish, but it's predicated on the fact that they already know a little bit about the product because they've done the online training on it. This is not going to be perfect. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a lot of stalls and stumbles, but remember, it's their first time doing this and they have a very critical audience in you as their sales manager. So give them some grace, let them make their stumbles, let them make their mistakes. Don't keep jumping in and telling them, no, that's wrong, no, that's wrong. Let them make their mistakes, then encapsulate all of your findings and give it back to them in one concise feedback. So let them do this, let them understand, let them fail, and we're gonna do this again and again and again throughout this entire week. So again, this was kind of like what I feel the first day should look like. So you start them off with a nice walk around of the dealership, introduce them to everybody, show them the different departments, talk about the vision of your store, give them access to all of the training that they need, let them do some training, then do a mock sale with them. And that should pretty much complete that first day. Okay, so now it's day 2 of our new candidate, Nick, joining our store. And what are we going to do with him today? Again, we want to make sure that we have a prescribed plan of what we're doing with Nick today. So I would again start him off with product knowledge, going on the website, figuring out exactly what is the product knowledge that your OEM wants him to know, and is there anything else that you want to add to that. So have him go through maybe an hour or two worth of online courses. Then come around and have him do a walk around. Yesterday, you were the salesperson and you showed him what to do. Now today, let's see how much of that he's remembered. So let him try doing a walk around with you as the customer on the next product that he's learning about. Then have him take you on a test drive of that particular unit and show off that car, and then hand it over to you so you can feel what it looks like. And then come back and talk about the sale process, the paperwork, the negotiation, and all of that. So within all of that, that might take the majority of the day. If it doesn't, my suggestion would be is we intersperse some other things. Maybe you want him to spend some time in the delivery process. What does that look like in your store? Do you have a dedicated delivery specialist, or are the salespeople responsible for that piece? If you have a delivery specialist, we want them to maybe shadow that person as they do a delivery. What does that look like? What paperwork is required? What kinds of things does that delivery specialist do with the customer as they're picking up their new car? If it's the salesperson's responsibility, then you definitely want them to see that, because they're going to be doing this on a day in, day out basis. As a salesperson is delivering a unit that day, what does it look like? What is the paperwork required? And what is their function going to be as part of that delivery? Get them to get a sense of that, because they haven't seen that before. You want them to see an entire sales process from beginning to end, and along the way, you're also supplementing that with product knowledge by them going on the various different training portals. So that's basically what day 2 looks like. Day 3 for Nick's onboarding and training looks like this. Basically a repeat of the first and second day, where you're learning about product, going through mock walkarounds, test drives, negotiation processes, and so on. But now we also want to add in, what about trades? Because you're going to be dealing with trade-ins. So how do you deal with trades? What is your process? What is the paperwork required? What kinds of questions do you ask the customer regarding their trade? Let's have some training around trade-ins, how we assess cars, what tools we use, how we justify the value to customers. Anything and everything to do with the trade-in process might be something you want to check in on in day 3. As we get to day 4, again, a lot of it is a repetition of previous 3 days, but here we want to add in maybe something a little bit different. A little bit more the delivery process and customer satisfaction. Most manufacturers have some kind of a survey that goes out to new car customers once they pick up their new vehicle from you. And it is very, very important to the dealership and to the manufacturer that you have a high CSI score, or customer service score. So how do we ensure that? Number one, obviously make sure that they get a great experience with you. But if there is something that went wrong in the entire process, how do we make sure we fix that before the customer actually goes down the road frustrated? Let's try and nip that before the customer actually takes off in their car. So what processes do you as a dealership and as a sales manager have in place to touch base with that customer before they take off? Do you do a thank you or an exit interview with that customer right before they go? Do you have a delivery specialist that does that for you? Is it the salesperson's responsibility to do that? What is your process? So let's share that with your new hire, and that way they know exactly what your expectations are to make sure that this customer has a great experience, and that when it is time for them to fill out the survey, you receive back a great score. So that was day 4. On day 5, we basically want to wrap up everything that we've talked about this whole week. So make sure that all the product knowledge courses that are required by the OEM are handled. Make sure that if there's any other courses that are required, or any other items that you want done from an online training platform, you want to make sure that those are done. You want them to be able to do a really decent walk around, test drive, that whole process, and get quite comfortable with the trade-in process. So realistically, by the end of the first week, they should be quite proficient with everything you need them to do as a brand new salesperson. They should know all the paperwork that's required for the various different steps, and everything else that is required to take a sale from start to finish. So that is kind of like the formal training product knowledge piece of things. Now, as we get into the later days of this new hire, some of the things that we want to impress upon them is, look, we're here at the dealership. My job as a sales manager is to bring you leads, and your job is to close those leads. However, it's not just on me. You also have a sphere of influence. You know people who would be involved in a car purchase. You have friends, you have family, you have different people that you've come across in your life that you need to reach out to and and let them know that, hey, I've started work here at ABC Motors. If you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, please remember me. And you want to have that constant dialogue with your sphere of influence to make sure that they know that where you are and what you're up to. How are you going to show your new hire that they should be doing this with their circle of influence? Some very easy tips is if they have a social media presence, then make sure on there that they update it to say that they're working at your store. Maybe a few small videos about what your store looks like on the inside, what products this person is going to be selling. All of these kinds of things will help engage in the community that this person has already built up before they even started with you. And now, as they move forward with you, they're going to add to that community by getting their customers to join their potential social media pages and follow them and their success. It's not just all about us handing them potential leads that they can close. They also have to be able to bring in customers. And as you know, the long-term people with you, most of the time, they have enough of a repeat and referral network that they no longer need to rely on the people that are walking through the door. That's just their gravy business. The bulk of that is based on the relationships they build with these people over time. So that is basically what a week and a bit of training looks like for a brand new hire. So I encourage you to have a formalized process in how to train, mentor, and coach a particular individual. So when they come to your store, it's not just, hey, welcome to the store. That's where you're going to be working. Here's a paper and pen. Go sell cars. Not like that. Let's do it proper. Let's do it professional, because if you don't do it right this time, you're going to keep doing this over and over and over again, and it's going to be a complete time suck for you, and you're never going to gain any traction, and you're never going to get to what your potential is. Let's build an effective sales team. Talk to you soon.